completely halts the ummah. The ummah completely comes crashing down, and Europe begins to rise. Takes 500 years, but eventually Europe is far advanced, and then khalas, it's a matter of time before they get rid of the Ottoman Empire. So it's the rape of Baghdad that begins it's the beginning of the end. In any case, the Mongols continue going down, they continue going towards Egypt, until finally, when it appears they're going to take over the whole Muslim world, who stops them? Where are historians here? Who stops them? Genghis Khan stops them. Genghis Khan stops Genghis Khan. Al-Zahir Baybaras. Yes. Al-Zahir Baybaras stops them. Where does he stop them? What's it called? The Battle of Ain Jalut. The Battle of Ain Jalut. The Battle of Ain Jalut, right? This is where everything changes. And we discover the Mongols are actually human, mashallah, tabarakallah. And that's when the Muslims start regaining. And so, Al-Zahir Baybaras, now that he's in charge, something has to be done. He's the one who finances the rebuilding of the masjid. So for a few years it remains in its charged state. Then there's no money, because it takes a lot of money. There is no government. The Baghdad government has been completely destroyed. So Al-Zahir Baybaras rebuilds the masjid, and he decides for the time being, you know what, this is a structure that is not in good condition, let's just cover it up. So he builds, for the first time, a large square around the house of the Prophet. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? That large square is what is still the square. That square that he builds in the year 678 is the square that we now see. Now it's not the grill, but the grail, but the foundation. That area is the area that Zahir Baybaras basically put aside. That this is now the square. And he built a dome on top of the grave for the first time. There was no dome ever in the history of Islam until 678, and it was a wooden dome. And that structure remained for 200 years until the second big fire took place. And the second big fire took place in the year 886 Hijrah. The year 886 Hijrah. And this is a very interesting fire that corresponds to 1481 CE, by the way, 1481. So to put things into perspective, Columbus has not yet discovered America. The Andalus the Muslims are still in Andalus. 10 years are left, right? To put things into perspective. No, the Ottomans are not fully, the Mamluks are mainly in power right now. So in 1481 CE, when the Mu'adhin of Salat al-Isha goes up to give his adhan, and it is a dark and stormy night, and it is raining, lo and behold, a bolt of lightning comes from the skies and strikes the minaret. And the minaret comes crashing down, killing the mu'adhin. And a fire begins on the roof of the masjid. And once again, 200 years later, the entire masjid is up in flames. And it is said all the people of Medina rushed to the masjid because there is no fire department there. You're going to take your buckets of water. You're going to do... Everybody rushed to help preserve whatever was possible to preserve. And basically the whole masjid had to be rebuilt. And so Mamluk Sultan Qaitbay. These are all somewhat bizarre names because they're not Arab. They're actually Qipchaks. They're a type of Turks, ancient Turks, Qipchak Turks, not even modern Turks. This is like another Circassians. They're a different type. So Sultan Qaitbay was his name. The Mamluk Sultan Qaitbay ordered a complete rebuilding of the masjid from scratch again. And he said, we're going to go and clean in the mess from the fire 200 years ago. Can you imagine? That had not been touched. And the greatest scholar alive was chosen. And his name was As-Samhudi, who died 911 AH, 911 AH, As-Samhudi. And As-Samhudi later on wrote many books of history, including a seerah of the Prophet, which is one of the most interesting seerahs as well. As he wrote a volume, 2-3 volumes about the seerah. And so As-Samhudi was chosen to go inside to the very inner chambers and make sure everything was fine, clean up, make sure that, you know, the original structure of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz could still be maintained. And so, after 500-600 years of nobody, more than that, 700 years, after nobody entering the qabr, even though some have said maybe in the 2nd or 3rd century somebody had to enter it because one wall might have collapsed. There is one of these stories as well in the books of history. So maybe somebody had entered in the 2nd, 3rd century, that one of the walls collapsed, they rebuilt it. But for sure, 5 centuries at least. A Samhudi cleans up the roof, he cleans up everything, he describes the pentagonal structure, he actually goes in from a bottom. Now obviously they didn't build a door, but there was a way to go in. I don't know how, he didn't describe how. Maybe there was one brick or something, I don't know, it does not describe. So he says from the very back entrance, he entered the sacred chamber. The first human in 500 years and the last human for the last 600 years to have entered the sacred. And he describes it in such emotional, vivid detail. He's writing in the first person. And this is a very amazing description. That, well, I wish I could do all of it, but already look at the time now, subhanAllah. And I have some, I just translated this today, one paragraph, that as I entered the blessed room from its rear, from the back, and I did not go any further, he did not walk inside. He stopped right there out of respect. He did not go inside, like he's just at the tip of the door. He said, I detected a fragrance, the likes of which I have never smelt before. This is no doubt about what you expect, other than there will be an aura, a spirituality, something. I mean, how can you possibly deny this? And anybody who denies this, I actually feel sorry for them. Wallahi, what do you expect? This is the qabr of the Prophet ﷺ. You don't think that the angels are going to be there? You don't think there's going to be barakah? There's going to be something? He says, I smelt a fragrance. I have never smelt anything like it. And he said, I stood there as long as I could. He's not going to move, he's out of respect. Giving salams to the best of all prophets, and then to the closest of his 2 companions. And I made as many du'as as I could. And it's very poetic language. I translated it very quickly into English. And he describes the room. I saw that the room was flat now. So no longer can the graves be seen. Right? Now the graves have now kind of gone in, settled, right? Except for one mound in the back that I assumed was the mound of Umar, still was a little bit up. The mound of Umar was still a bit up, and I felt the sand in the ground. Picked up a piece, and it was moist, subhanAllah. It was moist, as if it was fresh, and it was gravel. It was gravel. By the way, it is mentioned in Sahih Bukhari that Al-Qasim ibn Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr, Al-Qasim ibn Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr visited Aisha when she was still living there. And he said, oh my mother, let me see the qabr of the Prophet ﷺ. So Aisha, this is in Bukhari, lifted the curtain up. Now she would never lift the curtain for a non-mahram. But Al-Qasim is who? It's her nephew, Al-Qasim ibn Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr. So she lifted the curtain, and he said, I saw 3 graves. Neither were they raised, nor were they flat. There's not raised from the ground, nor are they flat. Just mounds. And reddish gravel on them. And another, we also have in a book of history as well, that when Umar ibn Abdul Aziz were rebuilding the graves, one of the people there that was building, and they chose scholars to take charge of this, said that I saw the graves of Abu Bakr, the process of Abu Bakr and Umar, they were raised 4 fingers from the ground. So it's just a little bit of a mound in all 3. That's all there is. No stone, nothing. Just mound raised up. By the time of Samhudi, which is 890 something, 880 something, 886, those qabrs have now become flat. And he says that to get to the qabr, I had to go down at least 3 arms length from the other. So this also makes sense that the chambers are now settled down. Things are going down now, as we would expect. And civilization, as you know, even archaeologists know this, will go higher and higher. So in order, when he got in, he's going down, down, down a little bit. So it appears that the inner chambers are now